from Rutgers, man, they got tattoos and
some hardcore hoes.
That's a nappy-headed hose there, I'm going to tell you that now. Man, that's some... Ooh. And the girls from Tennessee, they all look cute, you know, so... kind of like a... I don't know.
Spike Lee thing.
Yeah.
The Jigaboos versus the Wannabes?
Yeah.
That movie that he had?
Yeah, it was a tough...
do the right thing.
I don't know if I'd have wanted to beat Rutgers or not, but they did, right? On Friday, I apologized for some remarks that I made and others made, but particularly ones that I made. Girls from Rutgers, man, they got tattoos and
some hardcore hoes.
That's a nappy-headed hose there, I'm going to tell you that now. Man, that's some... Ooh. And the girls from Tennessee, they all look cute, you know, so... kind of like a... I don't know.
Spike Lee thing.
Yeah.
The Jigaboos versus the Wannabes?
Yeah.
That movie that he had?
Yeah, it was a tough...
do the right thing.
I don't know if I'd have wanted to beat Rutgers or not, but they did, right? On Friday, I apologized for...
The black is the better athlete, and he's bred to be the better athlete because this goes back all the way to the Civil War, when during the slave trading, the slave owner would breed his big black to his big woman, so that he could have a big black kid. See?
In Washington today, the local NBC television station interviewed people about the state of race relations on this Martin Luther King's birthday.
Jimmy the Greek Snyder is in hot water tonight over some remarks he made today about black athletes.
Well, they've got everything. If they take over coaching like everybody wants them to, there's not going to be anything left for the white people. The black is a better athlete to begin with because he's been bred to be that way, because of his high thighs. And I don't want this on. There isn't much left for the white guys. I was telling them how superior the black athlete is over the white one, and for the reasons that the black tries harder.
He has made a big mistake, but then all of us do, and we have to, at some point in time, when people show a contrite heart, to forgive, to redeem, and to move on.
I've listened to all of you guys, actually, and I think the sum total of what you're all saying is that Donovan McNabb is regressing. He's going backwards. And I'm sorry to say this, I don't think he's been that good from the get-go. I think what we've had here is a little social concern in the NFL. I think the media has been very desirous that a black quarterback do well. We're interested in black coaches and black quarterbacks doing well. I think there is a little hope invested in McNabb, and he got a lot of credit for the performance of this team that he really didn't deserve. The defense carried this team, I think, and he got credit for it.
Somebody went to those championship games. Somebody went to those Pro Bowls. Somebody made those plays that I saw running down the field, doing it with his legs, doing it with his arm. He has been a very effective quarterback for this football team over the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, but
different than what we see right now. And they didn't have any more talent then.
Oh, yeah,
than
they did.
Have
on
now.
defense. On defense, they did.
On defense, they did. On the offensive side of the ball.
Well, but that's what I'm saying. I think he got a lot of credit for the defensive side of the ball winning games for this team.
But I'll tell you what, I'll say it even more strongly, Tom. When they're winning, nobody makes more plays
than Donovan McNabb.
With his arm than Donovan McNabb.
Yeah.
That guy is really one of the best in the league at making plays. But making plays does not win championships. Running the offense does. So at some point, I think Troy Detmer looks like a better option because he'll go in there, drop back, and throw the ball correctly.
Isn't it odd that last year with the broken leg, I know it was Arizona, but the one game he was in the pie, he looked great.
He had to run that off.
So, Rush, once you make that investment, though, once you make that investment in him, that's a done deal.
I'm saying it's a good investment. Don't misunderstand. I just don't think he's as good as everybody said he has been.
Rush has a point.
Well, he certainly hasn't matured.
I will jump that fence and fight every nigger here, bro. Hold on. I will jump that fence and fight every nigger here, bro. I will jump that fence and fight every nigger here, bro. I will jump that fence and fight every nigger here, bro.
He just doesn't become shaken in the face of adversity, and that for a young quarterback is crucial to being successful.
Yeah, I would say a lot of it, he got protection up front and gets the ball out of his hands. That makes a big difference. He gets the ball, he goes to his progression, he reads the defense. And Robert, as a quarterback, most of the black quarterbacks, they like running because they're probably used to running from the laws. And so I think more importantly is that this guy goes to his progression, he just plays well.
Yeah, that's gonna be hard to come off to that. But I would say this about Kirk Cousins: he has not gotten hit at all this year. How many times?
Peace, salam, shalom, hotep, Black African power. Welcome, Black family, to another installment of the Reason Awareness Group Blog Talk Show. In our Blog Talk division of the group, we like to have general roundtable discussions on air about topics that directly affect our people. We like to have dialogue and positive feedback with the listening audience. Make no mistake about it. We are for our people, about our people, and with our people. Tonight, we'd like to discuss something that involves our people and that has since been an issue with our people from our forceful arrival here. We've endured racism in many fashions from white supremacists, whether it was socially, academically, economically, politically. We've had to challenge racism even at a recreational vehicle. Our people are naturally gifted beings, as you just heard from Jimmy the Greek himself. No matter how you spin it, our people can run fast, and I don't mean because being chased by the police. We can hit, jump, catch, run and throw, sprint, conditioning, anything that involves athletics. We have achieved dominance in that aspect. But that doesn't mean we haven't experienced racism. Racism in sports is quite prevalent today, as it was in the 60s, the 30s, and even further back. Whether if it was the Olympics in the 1930 games of Jesse Owens, Doc Rome, his walk-on in Alabama in 1967, I'll even take it back to the 1800s with the Negro League of baseball. Our own Bud Flowers. Our people have been challenged with racism repeatedly. Look at how they claimed we wouldn't be able to play quarterback in football because we weren't smart enough. But modern day, they loathe after Cam Newton. Pollard was the first African-American head coach. But we have modern day racism of coaches like Lovie Smith, Tyrone Willingham. They get fired and have a short work leash. Look at boxing. They'll praise Ali, the fighter, but hate Ali, the black empowerment man. Jack Johnson, who was the first African-American world heavyweight champion, had to wait his turn to beat Tommy Burns. Did you know boxing actually had a world-colored heavyweight championship, which Jack Johnson held for a very long time? It wasn't until Joe Gans, a lightweight, who was the first champion in boxing, then Jack Johnson was allowed to fight a white fighter. I'll give details on the aftermath of his groundbreaking victory later on in the show. See, the athlete is always going to be the hero in this world, but only certain times they allow the hero to be a brother or a sister. Racism in sports drives very deep. From blacks not being allowed to own a professional football team down to being the lowest number of coaches in the NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, and even collegiate sports. Did you even know that even to buy a professional team, especially in the big three, you have to be voted in by the other owners? Now, with 99.9% of the owners being white Jews, I seriously doubt that that's going to happen for a person of color to become an owner. Now, don't come to me about saying, oh, the NBA has NBA owners like Jay-Z. We'll expose the truth about that later in the show as well. You see, racism in sports goes deeper than the professional and collegiate, even at the high school realms. It even goes down to the pee-wees and little league sections of a sport. Found on this with the panel tonight, we have Brother Akil, Brother Kevin Williams, and myself, Brother Africanus. If you want to chime in, just press 1. You should be listening in at 323-870-4085. If you want to chime in with us, just press 1. That'll load you up in the box, and we'll just take your call if you have any questions for us. But let me just make sure my brothers are here. Brother Akil, you there? Brother Kevin Williams, you there?
Yeah, I'm here, Brother Africanus.
Peace, brothers. How y'all doing tonight?
I'm doing good. How you doing, brother?
Oh man, we hanging in there, brother. Hanging in there, man. We just want to get deep about this racism in sports, man. It's a lot going on. You know, brothers. You know, mainly, you know, we all of us are, you know, us being alpha males. A lot of us are black fathers, big brothers, or whatever. We all want to, you know, be involved in athletics. That's just how it is, and that was actually one of the most groundbreaking things of African Americans, you know, actually being acceptance in this country. But with him, when we deal with white supremacists, you know, the acceptance is sometimes with a 50-foot pole. And, you know, you guys know, like I know, it doesn't matter. You know, they're only going to accept you for so long so they can get to use without them. But let's talk about who you guys want to talk about first?
Let's just start it off with the most hated athlete right now, and you all know who I'm talking about. He just recently retired. You know, pound for pound, the greatest boxer of our era. I won't go as far as say the best ever, as he claims, but he is the best of our era. You know, no other than Floyd Money Mayweather, formerly known as Pretty Boy Floyd Mayweather. You know, this man has accomplished a lot, man. You cannot deny his talent. The man is a genius in the ring. The man is retired undefeated. He's beaten 23 world champions. Okay, that's a record that nobody has achieved. All right, and it seems like he doesn't get the credit he deserves, man. You know, he's hated. He's hated. I'll even put it in comparison. You know, he's a little cocky. Who isn't? A winner is always cocky. You know, but because he wins and he boasts, you know, his winnings and, you know, his confidence, you know, he's a jerk. He's they call him a wife beater or a woman beater, all that good stuff. But then you have a guy named Conor McGregor, who's an undefeated fighter in UFC, who's pretty much the same thing, but he's praised for his cockiness. But here Mayweather, you know, he's hated, and it goes deeper than that, man. His hatred is shown in social media. I mean, any forum you go on that talks about boxing, you know, once his name comes up, immediately the hate comes. Only people who defend him is pretty much us. But then you have some of us who echoes his haters' comments. You know, you got Hispanic fans call him all kind of you know, racial names in their language. You know, call him a pinchy negro, which translates to a fucking nigger in Mexican vernacular. You know, then they make up excuses. Oh, he fought fighters past his prime, but Manny Pacquiao fights the same fighters he's fought. Oh, it's no problem. You see the double standards here. You know, it's racism, man. And he recently said, hey, there's racism in boxing. And then he immediately had a backlash from Oscar De La Hoya, out of all people, who says there's no racism in boxing. And the same thing with Conor McGregor, saying that there's no racism in boxing, that we just keep pulling the race card. That's all we do. I don't know, Brother Africanus. What do you think about that?
You know, that was, you know, definitely, I agree absolutely with everything you said. And one thing that whites do not like is when we identify racism. They can't comprehend racism because most of them have never experienced it. So they can't comprehend it when we speak on it. We, of course, black people, we have a complete understanding of how it is, the power struggle that it is. But what the problem is with whites, the lower level whites, those who have never experienced it, they tend to have this issue with comprehending it. But we have a difference of comprehension anyway. But this man, let's look at it like that. Let me put this in a perspective. When we're talking about, especially international sports like boxing, and you and I had this conversation earlier. When we're talking about boxing at an international level, the international sport that it is, especially when we're talking about international sports like baseball, soccer, boxing, MMA, international. These are countrymen's sports. Boxing, it's a dead tie between boxing and soccer, but I have to give the edge to soccer. But when it comes down to boxing, no country has more national ties to it. We gravitate when it comes down to boxing, and I'm going to give you per se the last fight when it was Miguel Cotto versus Canelo. That was the Puerto Rico versus Mexico. When it was just recently with Floyd Mayweather and Pacquiao, the whole Philippines backed their man. We, as Americans, or black Americans, generally supported Mayweather, but there were some coons who actually, for some idiotic reason, wanted to support. Now, when we have these type of battles, it's like a country versus country. It's war. What they do is they're mad at Mayweather because he's beaten their heroes. Now, let's say, look at the heroes who they've beaten. He's beaten two of their Mexican heroes. He's beaten Oscar de la Hoya, hands down. He's beaten Canelo Alvarez, hands down. He's beaten the Philippines champion, hands down. He's beaten the Puerto Rican champion, hands down, Miguel Cotto. So he's beaten the English champion, what's his name? Not Kelly Pavlik. Ricky Hatton. He's beaten their champion. So what happens is now you have a black man who's on top, and it's hard for them, and he's not their bootlicking coon. So they get pissed off about that. Mayweather identifies racism in the sport. He also tore down what MMA is, because he said, if it wasn't for the colored boxer, whether it was a black or Latin American boxers, whites don't really compare in boxing compared to black fighters. He identified the racism, the title holding, how they helped make Klitschko hold on to it for so long. So they got upset with him before that because he exposed it, and he's good. So like you said, after that, now they want to expose his flaws, woman beater, everything under the sun, but everything but being the great fighter he is. So, the man is clearly the most hated man in professional sports. And it's sad because how great of a boxer he is. He would have to be in the top 5 of probably, he's at least the greatest of our era. He's definitely the best boxer of our era, but he would have to go down in top 5 probably boxers of all time, and he's definitely in his weight class. He could go down in the top 3, but I remember he rated himself as number 1. But the racism is real with Floyd Mayweather. The taking away all his great attributes and accolades. The racism is clearly there. But if you want to get on, I can see it's a couple people on. The area code's 323-870-4085. We're a Raising Awareness group. We're talking about racism in sports. You got Brother Akil, Brother Kevin Williams, Brother Africanus, myself. Brother Akil, you there?
Yeah, bro.
Okay. What's your take on that?
Like y'all said before, it's just crazy how even though he's hated by, the Mexican crowd, the white, the Cubans, the Puerto Ricans, even his own hate him, and that's what gets me with that one. Even his own get him because, like you said earlier, it's pretty much it's who I'm pretty sure I'm like this with everybody that watches boxing. I pull for the person who resembles me. Whether his whether his record is or not. But to see how people say, well, Floyd can't fight, Floyd runs and this and that. For one, you know, they don't understand boxing because for one, he's a counter boxer. And, you know, this it's just the crazy. I forgot. I'm trying to think of the dude's name, the commentator that gets into it with everybody, the racist cat, the old dude. I don't know if he's still doing it, but
you're talking about Larry Merchant or Jim
Larry Merchant.
Yeah,
you're talking about Larry Merchant.
Yeah, Larry Merchant.
When he said to Floyd, he beat him if he was 50 years younger. Let me tell you something. Larry Merchant wouldn't be able to beat Floyd Mayweather when Floyd turned 50 and he was 20 and he was 25. Okay, Larry Merchant couldn't handle Floyd Mayweather Jr. You know, so that to me is just one of the most funniest situations in the world for him to say that. But definitely the brother is one of the hated athletes on the planet. But you know what? There was something I wanted to talk about with racism that a lot of people probably don't understand. And that's the racism that we see with the Rooney Rule. And a lot of people don't understand probably with the Rooney Rule what it's really doing. And the Rooney Rule was basically designed in 2003 when they went. Every year, the NFL, they have their conference about bringing in situations. You know, they upgrade rules and bylaws or everything in the codes in the NFL. And the main thing, because the NFL, they were getting the NFL about hiring black coaches. The Rooney Rule was in effect. Basically, this was Rooney, who owns the Rooney family, who owns the Pittsburgh Steelers. What happens is they have to interview a coach of color, every NFL team. So what happens is they basically nominated Art Shell. Now, a lot of people say, who's Art Shell? Art Shell's probably one of the greatest in detail minds of football. He used to coach Oakland Raiders, then Oakland LA Raiders. He coached them twice. He became offensive line coach with the Atlanta Falcons for years. But what happened was Art Shell was really never going to be considered to be a head coach. And what they did was basically pimped Art Shell around the NFL every time a coach was fired. So because you had the Rooney Rule was implemented, it was almost a form of, what's the word I'm looking for? What is it called? Affirmative action in the NFL. Action. That's literally what it was, affirmative action. So what they did was they just, anytime, you already see it now, the NFL has about several coaching vacancies now. So what they would do is they would just parade Art Shell around and just take the interview for the Rooney Rule. Now, that's one of the most disrespectful things I think you could do. Like, that's literally like a loser getting a trophy. You know, you come in it's almost like a last place trophy. If it was a trophy given for coming in last place, that's what it is. And I think, I guess Art Shell just took it and, took it on the chin, and I guess he's one of the good old boys or whatever, but I was highly offended, and that's pretty racist that the powers that be in the NFL would do that. Now, Art Shell himself, I think he's out of the league. I think he finally went on and retired. But just recently, my team, the Philadelphia Eagles, just did this. They interviewed Deuce Staley for this same position when the Eagles just fired Chip Kelly. And everybody was all raving, oh, the Eagles are going to hire Deuce. I knew what it was from the rip. I said they have no intentions of hiring Deuce Staley. All they're going to do, they just did that to cover themselves from the Rooney Rule so they could go ahead and start interviewing the coaches that they really have for candidacy. But some people just are so blind to think, most black people, we get so excited, but we didn't see the real racism behind it. They didn't see that. They just saw, oh, Deuce Staley got the interview. No, Deuce Staley is covering them for the Rooney Rule. So, that was something I just wanted to put out there, and you guys give me some feedback about it. But just one of the most racist rules, maybe the most racist rule in any sport is the Rooney Rule. And you guys give me some feedback.
I honestly agree with you on that. I'll take it even deeper with that. How you just said Deuce Staley was just interviewed for the, with using the Rooney Rule, just to cover their ass. My team, the Dolphins, unfortunately I'm a Dolphin fan, but hey, whatever. we had recently we just hired the Bears offensive coordinator, whatever his name is, Gaze, whatever his name is. But before that, we had Joe Philbin, and before they hired him, they got rid of Tony Sperano. And when we got rid of him, we took the guy Todd Bowles, who became an interim coach for the last 4 or 5 games or whatever.
The former coach of ours too. Let me add, just to add to that, he's a former defensive coordinator for the Eagles too. Yeah.
Oh, well, look at that. He was our interim coach, and he actually finished out pretty good. And he was, if you look at the qualifications of looking for a head coach, he could have, easily stayed on, and became the next head coach. But I live in a town where, honestly, we had a black head coach for the Hurricanes by the name of what's his name? Randy Shannon. And,
Randy Shannon had a good program for a couple of years, but they let him go.
They let him go.
Of course, I know his situation. I know about it. Go ahead.
Yeah. So our town doesn't really like us black faces and running professional sports. So whatever. So Todd Bowles pretty much was our Rooney Rule. Just all right. Stay here for a couple of games. We'll interview you, but you're not going to get the job. Well, I could just say I'm glad the brother got the job as the Jets coach. And, honestly, if they didn't lose that last game, they would have been in the playoffs. But it's another story. But, yeah, man, the Rooney Rule thing is, you say it's affirmative action, and really it's just, disguised as so they can make a quota and say, well, hey, at least we interviewed a minority. We're not racist. We just interviewed a minority. We gave him a shot, but, in the end, he was not who we were looking for. But all that is just, just do that so they can hire their next Chip Kelly or, Jim Harbaugh or whoever, The rule is ridiculous. The rule is ridiculous. They shouldn't even have that shit in there, to be honest.
I'm surprised more people didn't step up and ask for it to be removed, because it's one of the most embarrassing, if not disrespectful, code of ethics, if they find that being ethical at all, to have that rule, because they feel as though black candidates weren't getting their fair shake. And to be honest with you, that rule actually, not hiring black head coaches really didn't get that rule implemented. I'm going to tell you what made that rule not got implemented. It wasn't a black. It was actually a Puerto Rican. What's the coach of the Carolina Panthers? He was the Eagles linebackers coach, Ron Rivera. It was really because of him. He got overlooked when he became available to, and then the Bears took him to be a coordinator. They just took him to be a linebackers coach. He got demoted from a defensive coordinator to a linebacker, and everybody, it was a big hoopla about it, because they're like, why isn't Ron Rivera?
You talking about when he left San Diego?
Yep. And then when he came, when the Carolina Panthers position opened up back in about, 2011, and I think that's when he took the job over then. But what I wanted to also talk about is the racism. Earlier in my introduction, when I was talking about how racism even goes further down in the Pee-wee and the Little League levels, especially when it pertains to football. Everybody knows I'm a football fan. I love it. I coach my kids and everything, people who know me personally. But, and I want everybody to understand something, what racism, for years they've done in major cities to the kids. What they would do, and this, you could actually look at this in football and in basketball. What they would do is, let's say you have an inner city kid, and he's good. They would scout this kid. What they would do is they would come grab this kid. They would go to his parents, and they literally they would say to this parent, look, he's playing football in these little crummy fields. Why don't you get him to come to our Christian academy or come to our military school or something like that? We'll give him adopted parents. And this will tie in with another situation with the baseball team that won the Little League. We'll talk about that too. What they'll do is they'll grab the kids out of the Philadelphia or the major area cities and put them in the suburbs to promote to the boosters, because there's even boosters in high schools, those big major contributors, they have them too. Nike, Adidas, they're all there too. And what they'll do is they'll pull the kids out of the district so they could go to another school. I'm going to give you a case in point. Northeast High School was pretty much, or George Washington High School here in Philly was like one of the most dominant schools. Now, it's up the boulevard. All the kids up there are pretty much white school. All of any black kids go there, they're pretty much athletes. What they'll do is they'll come down in the little hoods where the kid might have to go to Simon Gratz or West Philly High or somewhere like that. And if the kid is good, they'll approach the parents and they'll say, look, we want your son to come to our school. Look, we produce Charles Way. Charles Way used to be a fullback for the New York Giants. He went to Northeast High School, George Washington. You know, what they'll do is they'll come to them and say, look, we'll take care of you. We'll give you a couple of dollars. We'll pull him out of here. All you have to do is tell your son go to school and say he's in fear because he got threatened or he got jumped. He'll make up a lie just to pull him out of the school. This is what they do. Now, another thing, I'm going to go on a political level, what they do. They also purposely allow the fields in the city to basically dilapidate. They never take care of the fields, just dirty, dusty, glass everywhere, no type of rehabilitation, no prep, no nothing. The only reason why in the city of Philadelphia, Germantown, Simon Gratz, West Philly High School, I'm just giving schools that probably went 20-plus years without any type of rehab whatsoever done to the field is because when the kids started going regional, when you started putting the schools outside your district, in the suburbs, in the state, when those kids outside came to our field, they said, look, we're not playing on this crap. Are you serious? Some of these kids get hurt, potholes. They were embarrassed. So they had to rebuild those fields. They basically gave them next turf, some type of turf field, track around, and, stadium-like field. But this went on for about 20 years in this city of these fields being, literally dumps, and forced these kids to play. And this actually made the kids more, unappealing to want to go to their local high school or whatever. So they went to, it was easier for them to make that decision to go to a school outside of the city. Again, the racism, the power. I want people to understand these weren't decisions that were forced upon these kids. It was just made easier for them to leave. They would say, look at this field, look at your jerseys, look at their program. Even the coaching was horrible. So that's why most kids in the city flocked outside of the city. Now, I don't know, you guys, do you experience that down in your area as well, Brother Kevin?
Yeah, pretty much. It's the same. It's the same here. Yeah, a lot of our players, they would, all right, let me just say it like this. I went to a high school. I went to Palmetto, which is, I'm not going to say it's affluent. It's a public school, but it's in a very affluent neighborhood in Miami called Pinecrest, where all the Jews and rich Cubans live. And pretty much all the black kids that went out there were pretty much bust out there because of district laws. So our football team, above mediocre, slightly above average, but wasn't good enough to get the state and win and all that. But people from my area, if the same situation you were talking about, they would go to private schools in that area. We have one called Gulliver, where the late Sean Taylor went. We'll have cats. We'll have cats that'll go out there, and since that's a very affluent school, a lot of scouts will look at him and Taylor was a beast. I'm gonna just talk about him for a minute. He was a beast, regardless, before he even went out to Gulliver. So he was on the scouts radar for many years, and then whatever he got picked up by the youth, or he committed to youth, and he became a legend in his own right until he was ultimately cut down in an unfortunate tragedy. But it's the same thing here. A little different how you said. We don't really have too many these white coaches coming out saying and saying, hey, sign over. What do you call it? Pull them out of school, and then we'll put them with a family. It won't go that far. They'll just they'll just have them come out to the school, and then they'll just hey, all right, commit to our school, and then look good for these scouts, and then commit to one of these scouts. The thing is, if you go to any of these good schools like let's say UM, Georgia, Virginia Tech, of course those schools get broke off because they recruit them boosters. So that's pretty much what it is. They come get the nigger out the hood, and he's a cash cow, pretty much. You feel me?
Yeah.
He goes to college, he's a cash cow. They get paid. That's pretty much it. So it's sort of like in modern slavery, in a sense, but not in that sense.
No, it is, brother, because you know why? We could even take it to the next step. I just saw the article. I already knew about this. These college kids don't get paid. We know this. You take people like, what's the head coach of Alabama right now?
Nick Saban.
Nick Saban. These guys cash in major bonuses. You hear me? Major, mind you, he's the top paid coach in college football for probably one of the top 5 programs in college football. Definitely Alabama's probably top 2 SEC programs. These guys get bonuses while these kids get T-shirts. I mean, literally, these guys get T-shirts. You just won a national championship. Should that money get broken down to the kids? Yeah, your bonuses, you should be breaking these kids off. Now, I don't know if he has any, backdoor deals or, out-of-pocket deals with these kids that aren't made public, but these kids aren't getting paid. Yeah, they get the benefit of saying say they go to Alabama and they hope to make it to the NFL, but these kids aren't getting paid while they're out there on the field. It is modern-day slavery, especially when you're pimping these kids. You get Nick Saban, who would probably not care who's in the game at all. One of those kids get hurt, it's on to the next one. They don't care. That's why I respect when these kids do get drafted and they do what they have to do and they sign their contracts, because once they're done with you, they're done with you. There is no tomorrow for these kids, especially after their collegiate level is over. Their collegiate careers are over. But when we talk about racism in college, when we're talking about racism in college football or even college sports, especially the head coaching job, black head coaches make up lesser than 10% of all CFS, college football, CFB, NCAA coaching positions. Tyrone Willingham, probably one of the better minds. He was early 2000s. He was nominated to be the Notre Dame head coach. He took the job, did an excellent job there. Had one losing season and was immediately fired. And then that's when they brought in the guy from New England. He was the offensive coordinator in New England after they won the Super Bowl. Charlie Weiss. Yeah, that was his name, Charlie Weiss. Tyrone Willingham took another job. I think Tyrone Willingham took the job at Northwestern after that, and it didn't work out there. He had 2 seasons there. What was it? He went to Washington. Yeah, he went to Washington, not Northwestern. He went to Washington. Had 2 seasons there, and they did him dirty there. Black head coaches literally have the shortest leash to live off of, and especially when we're talking about collegiate sports, because especially college football. The racism in college football is basically like this. They're giving a 1-year trial, and it depends how you do and how the white players respond to you, because the boosters are dominantly white. The funding is dominantly white big businesses like Nike, Reebok, Adidas, Gatorade. Sometimes they don't, they don't all the time feel comfortable with a black head coach. So what they do is they give you the shortest leash possible, and they don't want to be deemed a racist. But what happens is when you're talking about whites who come from majority white towns, white areas, they don't have it. They never had probably even dealing. There are still white people in America who have never had any contact with a black person. And that does happen in America. They are the dominant. They are over 60% of the nation's population. So you will still meet a white person. You can meet a white person today somewhere in America and say they have never had any physical contact with a black person. They've never spoken to one. They've never seen one. Besides television, that actually is a backdrop of why we have so many situations with white police officers, because they only believe in the propaganda they hear on the radio or see on TV about black people. But a lot of white people in America never had interactions with a black person until they probably got to college, or even maybe when they moved out their little area. So let's take a white boy from middle of Nebraska, where it's nothing but corn-fed farmland, and he gets lettered to go to Nebraska, or let's say Texas, and his parents may not feel comfortable with him going to a college that has a black head coach, and he may be a 4 or 5 star recruit, but he rejects it, and that's another reason why the ADs tend to not want to hire a black head coach, because they know the white parents, they're prejudiced, they have hatred, they don't feel comfortable with their white son being coached or mentored who takes over the father figure, and he's a black man. Because when you're a head coach, you are like a surrogate father to these men, to these young men and boys. I know this firsthand. When they say yes, coach, it's almost like saying yes, dad. Yes, coach, no coach. Yes, dad, no dad. It's the same thing. So you're mentoring, and you're the surrogate father, and they don't want that. They don't want no black man to be their surrogate father for their sons while they're, learning football and really trying to advance their football careers. So the racism behind black head coaches college football runs deeper than what most people think. It could go both ways. It goes for the athlete and the coach.
I want to take it to another aspect of the black head coaches. I'll bring up one example where this coach, he seemed to have a little longer leash, but he coached 2 teams. And if, fate was played right, he could have had, a Super Bowl with this one team, but they got rid of him. And you probably know who I'm talking about, the great Tony Dungy. Remember, when he was coach for Tampa Bay Buccaneers, he built up his team. And I believe they made it to very far in the playoffs, but whatever, they lost, and he got fired. He got fired. Immediately after he was fired, they hired John Gruden. And John Gruden took the team that he built for the past couple of, 3-4 years, took them to the Super Bowl that year, and I believe it was against the Raiders, 2002. They
his
played
old
the Raiders.
team.
His
It was
old
a trade.
team.
It was a trade. And they took John Gruden. Yep, and he took his old team to the Super Bowl. I know that was just ridiculous. I recall that.
That was horrible. But Dungy got his little redemption once he got to Indianapolis, and I was kind of happy for him on that. But it was kind of funny because if you look at that Super Bowl, he played against another brother named Lovie Smith when they played Chicago. So it was 2. Yeah. So either way, one coach was going to become the first, a black Super Bowl champion.
The first black head coach to win the Super Bowl. Yeah. How about that?
So, but then, another situation. You got the Golden State Warriors right now, who are playing phenomenal basketball right now as we speak. Won the championship last season. But the year before that, Mark Jackson built that team, and they got rid of him and put in Steve Kerr. All of a sudden now, Golden State Warriors, they're the champions. And now, it's funny, Steve Kerr's not even really coaching the team right now, even though he's the head coach. They're playing freaking, I can't even think of a word.
Only lost 2 games. Only lost two games.
I mean, that's unheard of. I mean, they might beat the Bulls' record, man. I don't know, man.
They got a strong shot at it. Oh, let's take this caller, man. If you're listening in, it's 323-870-4085. We're the Raising Awareness Group. This is our blog talk. We're talking about racism in sports. Chime in with us. If you had an experience, you might have been a high school, collegiate, even a professional player, minor league player, whatever, and you had an experience of racism, call in, tell us about it. Let us know how you feel and express it. We're going to take our brother from the 678. Brother 678, you're live.
Black African Power.
Black African Power. Hotep, my brother. How you doing tonight?
Good, man. It's Black Panther from the Alman Rock Squad, Mossy Warrior Clan, and Magi Archers, man. How y'all brothers feel?
Arrows up.
Arrows up, spears up, bows up, man. You know how it is, man.
Right, peace, brother, man. How you feel, man? Yeah, we talking about the racism and college basketball, man. Not overall sports, but college basketball, college football, professional football, baseball, basketball, and we actually just hear, brother Kevin just brought up an excellent point about the Golden State Warriors, and I know you from the area over there, and I was totally surprised actually last year at Black Panther when they fired Mark Jackson. I liked Mark Jackson. You weren't
wasn't
surprised
one bit.
Why? Tell me why.
A lot of people don't know this about me if they didn't see my interview on Black News 404. I'm a former college basketball player. I'm a former semi-pro basketball player. I got a lot of friends in the NBA. Some of them tell me things. And I had heard the rumblings of Mark Jackson bumping heads with the front office long before he got fired. And Mark Jackson, if anybody doesn't know, he's a devout Christian, and he has certain principles that he just does not bend on. And apparently there was a little bit of homosexuality within that organization that he wasn't comfortable with. So
you just dropped the jewel. You just dropped the jewel I didn't know anything about.
Yeah, there's actually a YouTube video. If you go on YouTube and research Mark Jackson preaching on the corner. He's on the corner in California actually preaching about homosexuality, and this was going on while he was the coach of the Golden State Warriors. So he had a big problem with some behavior that he deemed was homosexual, and I will say to anybody that he made Steph Curry what he is, just putting the confidence in something that he saw in that young man. And he did put a lot of those pieces in place on that team. For whatever reason, they couldn't get over the hump with Mark Jackson. They got over the hump with Steve Kerr. Right now they're rolling with Luke Walton, which was trained by the late, Phil Jackson. So I'm not surprised there. I won't say the late Phil Jackson because he's still alive, but the former Laker coach, Phil Jackson. So I'm not really surprised there. But, yeah, Mark Jackson stood on his principles, and they got him out of there for that.
Now, let me ask you this, though. Let me ask you this, Brother Black Panther. Let me ask you this. Do you think maybe even it was that, but do you also think maybe the remarks he made after the Donald Sterling scandal, do you think that probably was the icing on the cake and that was just like, we got to get him out of here? He's too voicious.
I'm not sure, but I definitely know it didn't help. It certainly didn't help. Mark Jackson has always been very outspoken, and I was great friends with his brother, Troy Escalade Jackson, rest in peace. But he's always been that way. He's always been outspoken. He's not going to bite his tongue, and in the end, it cost him his job. And I'm glad you brought up the Clippers situation because I wanted to bring that up. Donald Sterling and that situation is a perfect example on how white people tell you they don't want you in their league or you're only their entertainment, and we still go to their leagues. Now, check out this situation. We got an owner, billionaire, caught on tape saying racial remarks to his black mistress.
Bedwench, mistress, yeah.
Bedwench, mistress, traitor, whatever you want to call this woman. She was, receiving favors to perform sexual acts and be this guy's little plaything or whatever. And you can learn so many lessons about white people from this because apparently he didn't want black people at his games, right? But apparently he has no problem with black people playing for him, and he has no problem putting his penis in black pussy. Those don't
certainly not. That don't bother him, though.
But he don't want too many black people at the game that he deems threatening, and that and it really was about the woman, but the woman brought out his racial tendencies because it's really about I don't want people at the game that you might find more attractive than me. and those just happen to be black men. So he has an inferiority complex when it comes to black men. Now look at the way he badmouthed Magic Johnson on the air. Went after Magic because he's afraid of him. Because Magic Johnson is a guy that's making money hand over fist, and one day he may be on the same level as you. So now he was already threatened by him because he's a big black man and he feels like that, he could lose his woman to Magic. So he had to attack him personally on the air. And now it's an extra layer of inferiority because Magic got money. Magic got big time money. And in L.A., Magic is king. Regardless of how the Clippers do. The Clippers could win the next 5 championships and still not be on the level of the Lakers franchise in which Magic put on the map.
I don't think so.
So it's an inferiority thing that he has against Magic. And it just came out.
I totally agree with you. Yeah, I totally agree with you. Because
the great thing was, the Clippers had a chance to do something monumental, and they just squandered it away. If the Clippers would have said, we're not going to play until this guy is gone, it would have sent a message. It would have sent a message to all of sports.
A shockwave. It would have sent a shockwave.
That black people, that people of African descent, Africans in America, are not going to be treated in these demeaning, derogatory, slave-like conditions, and that you're going to have to start respecting us a little more than you have been. But they played anyway, and it ended up being to their detriment because they were losing games. Their head wasn't in the game.
You know what, Brother Black Panther, and this was actually, I was going to bring this up in my final word and solution, but I'm going to have to say it now because, you just lit my fire about it. Our black athletes, I don't think they realize how powerful they really are.
No, they don't.
Yet you're young, you're black, you have money, you're a celebrity, and you are worshipped. You have endorsements.
People love you.
You are worshipped.
But think about
if
this,
they worship you.
If, let's rewind the clock 50 years, and let's say they would have been paying the athletes of the Jim Brown, Muhammad Ali era this kind of money.
And those guys, and listen, let me tell you something. The salary, those guys would be satisfied seeing. I think the top NFL contract during the 80s during the 70s was like $500,000. That was the top NFL contract, $500,000. A prize fighter of Muhammad Ali status would barely see maybe $1 million. $1 million was huge. I mean, that was like Thriller Manila, Rumble in the Jungle type of money. We ain't even talking about the $200 million Mayweather cashed out when Pacquiao, $200 million. I mean, these guys are just prize fighters, in the $1,000 range. And now you said some key names: Jim Brown, Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier. These were what's my man with the Lakers? Your team, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Yeah,
these were brothers who were about our
were active and were trying to get something done about the racism in the league. But you know what though? A lot of people will say that we need to have our own leagues, right? And I agree. But let's not forget that we squandered our own leagues twice in America.
Now let me bring in. Hold your thought there, brother Black.
Okay.
Let me bring in my brother Kevin Williams back in because that was his point.
Okay.
I know he wanted to get to that about all us and having that. But brother Kevin, you there?
Oh, I'm here. Yeah. As Black Panther was about to say, we have squandered our leagues. Yeah, we have squandered our leagues. I mean, up to 1947, we had the Negro leagues, and they was striving. Come on, man, they didn't really need to integrate with the MLB. The MLB needed them. It was the other way. You know what I'm saying? The MLB needed them. You understand?
But white people are very smart and they're very sneaky. What they did was they knew that we were seeking acceptance in America from the dominant society. We were seeking acceptance in America from the dominant society. So they offered the best player that they could find, Jackie Robinson, a contract. And you know what they did is they stripped him away from the Negro Leagues. And this is a lot of things that people don't know. They didn't offer the Negro Leagues any compensation for Jackie Robinson. No money, no nothing.
At all.
So they saw how that worked, right? So then they went after Satchel Paige, and then they went after all these other baseball players that were great, and they just stripped the Negro Leagues naked. They didn't have nothing no more.
And it went defunct. That was it. And it went defunct.
That was it. And you know what? That worked so well. They did it with the ABA too. They took Dr. J. They took Wilt. They took all these other players, and suddenly the ABA ain't got no money to keep the doors open or keep the lights on anymore. So if we were seeking so much acceptance, the ABA would have still been thriving, because the ABA was much more exciting than the NBA by leaps and bounds, and so was the MLB. But we wanted that acceptance into the dominant society, and they played on that, and they took our best and brightest. And there's a lot of players in the in the Negro Leagues and the ABA that never got their shot in the big leagues that were better than some of the guys that they took, but they wouldn't sell out. And now we don't know their names, and we got to hear about them on ESPN 30 for 30 years later.
Do you know his brother? You can look at Jackie Robinson's own brother. How about that? But people don't want to talk about that. And that's an excellent point. You know, they make it seem like all we have after that is the old black and whites and some patchwork, hoodies and jackets and some fitted hats and snapbacks and memories. We could still, me personally, the NFL really could have had its own minor league with the USFL, but Donald Trump owned it. But that league was majority black, and guess what? Had a lot of black head coaches in it too, and they were pitting people in them stands. But what happens is the monster, when it becomes a machine. See, right now, the machine that the NBA is, the machine that the NFL is, the machine that Major League Baseball is, it would be so hard probably for us to acquire a league. We would have to start at basically scratch level or grab a star who's in the major league. That's why Japan, over in China, Stephon Marbury, he said, forget the racism and the nonsense in the NBA. He's a major star overseas. That's why you have so many stars in the NBA that have a new life overseas. He is literally the Michael Jordan. A lot of people don't know that. He is literally like the Michael Jordan in China.
He has a statue.
He has a statue.
He has a statue, and he won 6 championships. He's won 6 championships over there. You understand? But you know something?
The guy has a play. They do a play after Starbury over there. Shoes is manufactured over there, and he's selling them not only in that community but in the United States as well. He made a power move.
For $20. $20.
Yeah, I know.
You know something? But, there's a chance that the players can start their own leagues. There you have these semi-pro leagues that are out there. I'm pretty sure, man, all it takes is one star to be like, man, screw this and take a bold stance. This is wishful thinking now. But, take a bold stance and take, some of these semi-pro leagues with the money they got and all they got to do is build their machine behind that, and and try to make it profitable. But just like I don't know which one of y'all said it earlier. They're afraid to go against the machine because honestly, the machine could quash them. And in a sense, there's they'll blackball them, and I've seen this done. A lot of players have been blackballed, speaking up against certain things like this. I forget. My father was telling me there was a baseball player. I think it was a baseball player or. Yeah, but it was in the 70s. They were negotiating contracts. The black baseball player, I can't call his name right now, but he sued Major League Baseball for a big contract. And make a long story short, he pretty much lost, and then they signed some white dude. I think it was to the Yankees, and he got like a $3 million contract, which was today's equivalent, like almost $100 million. You feel me? And that dude was never heard from again. I mean, I don't know the new dude's name. Got it at the tip of my tongue, but you know, it's funny. The black people, you know, lead the charge in these things, but in the end of the day, they get the purple shaft in the ass. You know.
You know what?
Man.
Let me get the floor real fast. It was something I definitely had to get off my chest, and I wanted to talk about the treatment of our athletes in football, baseball, basketball, compared to the white players, and so people can understand the racism behind it. I know a lot of people will, you know, have their own views of Michael Vick, or even let's just say Ray Rice. But I'm going to bring up something that a lot of people may not know. When we saw Ray Rice, I'm not going to condone it. I'm not going to say it was all right for him to hit his woman and the way he dragged her afterwards, anything. But it only became galvanized when we saw the physical footage. One thing about it, what happened with Ray Rice admitted what he did. Ray Rice never lied. Ray Rice admitted what he did. He told the NFL commissioner, and he got a 2-game suspension for it, what he verbally told the commissioner and the police, and he followed up on everything he was obligated to do, what he was ordered to do, all classes, everything. Now, the video came out. It was a whole uproar. Of course, it was very volatile. It was ugly. It was a disgust. People saw it. There was a backlash. So the NFL, Roger Goodell, he reacted on that. Now, let me say this. Pittsburgh Steelers have a quarterback by the name of Ben Roethlisberger. Big Ben. This man, not once, twice, raped females in public bathrooms and in a bar. Raped two. Never was arrested. Never was put in jail. Nothing. Nope. He was the worst behavior.
Hey, but you know what they gonna
suspension.
Say,
he got a 6-game suspension. He only served 4. He got to reduce to 4. Rape, not assault.
They gonna say no, but this is what you hit them with, because they gonna say, well, Ray, that's not the same offense. Ray Rice didn't do. I said, okay, well, let's go the same exact charge, right? Kobe Bryant was charged with rape. Kobe Bryant was acquitted of rape. Now, during that time that he was on, trial, going to court, still playing ball, every day I turned on my TV, I heard about the allegations, what was going on in court, what the witnesses are saying, what the other people are saying, what the prosecutor, the defense, everything. I'm going on and on. I'm following every detail. But when Ben Roethlisberger got charged for rape, I didn't get none of that. I didn't get none of the play-by-play. I didn't hear nothing of the prosecution. I didn't hear nothing of the defense. I didn't get to see none of the inside of the courtroom. I saw nothing. Nothing. And all of a sudden it was settled. And then it was back again. Another victim. And again, I didn't hear nothing. I didn't hear nothing from the prosecution or the defense or none of the testimonies. We didn't go live to the courtroom. Nothing. Again. So my claim is validated in the fact of the lack of media coverage. I guess this just wasn't important enough. For how many Super Bowls has he won? At least 2.
2, been in 3.
A 2-time Super Bowl.
But matter of fact, he won 2 oftentimes he raped the girls.
So this man's won multiple Super Bowls. He's a Pro Bowler. He fills the seats. He's gonna go down in the Steelers' history as one of the best quarterbacks they've ever gotten. But somehow he wasn't important enough to get the deals and the information about his rape case. But Kobe Bryant was plastered on every TV for 3 months.
Yeah, true. Watch him in and out the room.
You could take it this route too with Plaxico Burress. It's 2 different incidents, but This dude shot
Oh,
himself in the leg. He got,
that's crazy.
you know, and he was on TV more than Min was for shooting his damn self.
And listen to this.
This is what I'm trying. The point that I want people to understand how the racism in sports goes and how athletes are held at different standards. Was Plaxico Burress being stupid with the gun? Yeah, he was stupid. Did he deserve to do 2 years in federal prison? No. Did Michael Vick deserve to do 2 years in federal prison for dog fighting, which was really just about illegal gambling, state gambling, which was really at the worst it should have been? No. But we know Michael Vick, it was about something else. But see, this is what they do. They treat their white athletes at a different level than us. Their white athletes could do whatever he wants. He literally still can get away with what he wants. He can be a cold bum. And I want everyone who's listening to understand something about the white quarterback. And I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna say some names to you guys. Let's just take a quarterback like Donovan McNabb. When he came in the NFL, they were saying, he could play running back. Let's take Michael Vick. He came in the league. He could be a wide receiver or return man. When we're talking about quarterbacks, we could go on and on. I could just name any Cam Newton. They were trying to say, he should play linebacker. He should play tight end. Just on and on when it comes to the black athlete, black quarterback.
We don't fit a position.
He don't fit a position. Now I'm gonna say, and I want you to understand something about white quarterbacks that a lot of people don't understand about white quarterbacks. Most white quarterbacks, pretty much all white quarterbacks, they never played another position. They were going to be a quarterback from Little League. They were the quarterback in grade and Pee Wee, Little League, high school, college, to the NFL. Tom Brady. When you look at Tom Brady, what other positions can Tom Brady play? He can't play no other position.
Backup
quarterback. Backup quarterback.
That's about it.
What other position can Aaron Rodgers play? Backup quarterback. What other positions could a Andy Dalton, a Phillip Rivers?
They could be the punt kicker.
Nope. You can't even kick. You got to know how to kick.
Take Drew Brees, for instance. They can't play other positions. But with a black quarterback, they can always say he could play something else. Look at what's his name? Colin Kaepernick. He could play wide receiver. He could do this. They will always say a black quarterback could play something else. When it comes to a white, the point of what I want to say, what I'm trying to get at is the white quarterback will never be as good as an athlete as a black athlete because he's not as talented. A black athlete is multi-talented. The white,
but that's they use our athleticism against us.
And they use our athleticism against us to say that we are not sophisticated enough. That's their last stance, to say the quarterback position requires a sophistication. And
that's
this
what
is
that
why
whole
they do that.
Wonderlic test was about.
That's what the and that was took it, right? See, that's why I'm glad you on, brother Black Panther. That was the whole Wonderlic. The whole Wonderlic was designed just to say he's too stupid to play quarterback. That's all it was about.
And you know what? If you look at that test in comparison with the test of the civil rights era when they were doing the rights to vote, and you remember they had the test, and if you passed the right to vote, they are very similar. Look at the questions of those tests. An idiot can pass this test.
It didn't come to fruition until you actually had some white quarterbacks who really started, because they talked about Vince Young. Remember when Vince Young came out of the league and they said, he scored a 6 on his Wonderlic. And now everybody saw it like, wow, he just won a national championship with Texas. And now, because he's going to be a top 10 pick in the NFL, y'all sitting up here now trying to say he's too stupid to play quarterback. But he just won a national championship, and he got snubbed for the Heisman with Reggie Bush, but he just beat Reggie Bush, and then when he was at Texas, he beat them. Beat USC. So now y'all want to play him. And I actually commend Dan Marino, one of the greatest quarterbacks in NFL history, Miami Dolphins. But he's basically number 2 in all the stats because Peyton Manning. Well, no, he's 3 because remember Brett had all the stats. Now pretty much Peyton Manning and broke his stats. Basically, Dan Marino said, and they were shocked when Dan Marino did this. Dan Marino said, "Listen, I'll be honest with you guys. I scored a 6 on the Wonderlic too," and they all looked and was like, "Whoa." Dan Marino, see, he was like, "Yeah, I kept it quiet for all these years, but I just can't see." And Dan Marino was just like, "I just can't believe why you guys are coming down so hard on this kid. He's going to be a good quarterback. I mean, look at me, I got a 6 too." It's like, but like Brother Black Panther just said, it was designed. That was normally the last line of defense for white supremacists and their racism, to say, well, black man isn't smart enough. This is what they're doing in Africa right now. What's the last thing they're saying? To justify the reason why the control and ownership of the resources in Africa, that we are not sophisticated or smart enough to manage resources in Africa. This is what they do. This normally the last bit of the defense that they have, or reasoning of their barbarism. Oh, he's not smart enough. And
it's so one-sided, man, because when you look up these IQ tests and all the stuff that they take this stuff from, most of it comes from Germany.
Mm-hmm.
It's not even designed to accurately measure the intelligence of the African. And then if you do a study on intelligence, you'll find out that even modern science has talked about and has tested for different types of intelligence, to include intelligence in sports. So if I cut a certain way and I just already know that you're going to do that, that's a form of intelligence.
Military level as well.
In every single facet of existence, you have a level of intelligence that can't be measured by a test. If you do it musically, I know where the beat and the snare is, and I don't have to have anybody to tell me. That's a level of intelligence. Everybody else is talking about, what's solved for X? Well, this might not be an X problem in the game, but you're using this equation to disqualify me from playing a certain position, and that's some fucking bullshit.
Yeah, that is something. It is. Yeah, we're the raising awareness. We're talking about racism and racism in sports. If you want to chime in with us, just press 1, dial in 323. 870-4085. We're live. We got about an hour left. There was something else that was on my chest too. I wanted to bring up, especially when we're talking about the boxing. It was a huge propaganda and lie. I talked about the brother earlier, Jack Johnson. Again, he was the first African American heavyweight champion. A lot of people probably still don't know that there was actually racism in boxing with the color. There was actually a heavyweight championship in color, a colored heavyweight championship, because boxing at one point was, of course, the origins of boxing. The origins of the boxing sport in the ring was an Irishman sport, but we can still take that back to African culture, that boxing or MMA, mixed martial arts, was still was the origin of self-defense, was the origin culture of African Nubian self-defense of war. But Brother Jack Johnson, when they took him down, he beat Tommy Burns. What happened was, after that, there was riots, literally riots, that precipitated after that, because a black man won the World Heavyweight Championship, which was groundbreaking at that time, just to be the number one man in boxing. But a lot of people may have the story misconstrued when they say, he was pimping white women. I want people to get an understanding. He had no reason to prostitute white women across America. What he was doing was he having sex with white women? Yes, he was having sex with white women. Was he going town to town having sex with white women? Yes. Was he prostituting them? No. So when they did their lynch mob and their witch hunt against him, that's what they did. They conjured up this, that he was going town to town, partying and drinking with these white women and, selling them off, like a slave owner almost. And that's how they took him down. That's basically what the whole case was about. And it's sad that the brother went out like that. But Jack Johnson probably, modern day, at that era, was the pound for pound the best boxer on the planet, especially in the heavyweight division.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely salute.
Another thing too in heavyweight boxing, I don't know a lot of people remember this one. We'll take a little further, like 20 years down the line. Joe Louis was the champion at one point. Joe Louis lost his championship to Max Schmeling. Yeah, he lost to Max Schmeling. Okay, so a couple of more years later, there was a rematch happened. At that time, World War II was around. After Max Schmeling beat up Joe Louis, he went back to Germany. And mind you, Schmeling was not a Nazi, showered with, with victory parade with from Hitler and the Nazi Party. And, they paraded him as, well, he took down the mighty strong black guy. So we're the mighty Aryan race and all that. I'm talking about this propaganda, and mind you. And I think Schmeling, no, he wasn't Jewish, but he had a lot of Jewish connections and stuff. But what I'm trying to say is, when the rematch was coming, the world touted it as Nazi Germany versus America, and Joe Louis was going to fight him again. You see how they use Joe Louis now to get the American propaganda machine going. All right, you're an American now. You're not the Negro. Mind you, this is the time, Jim Crow segregation. Black people were Negroes. He wasn't a Negro. For that split moment, Joe Louis was the American hero. All right, the fight happened, knocks out Schmeling in one fucking round. Kills the Nazi propaganda that, Nazis are not the supreme race. Joe Louis comes back to America. Yeah, they're happy he won, but you understand, you see how that works? They just use him, what I'm saying? Use them up, and and Negroes had hopes. Oh man, they're making Joe Louis, he's accepted. But once that shit was over, came back to America, man, and sadly he went out like a sucker, man, because all his money that he made, Uncle Sam took it to the point the man had to. Oh man, it's a sad story how he went out. The man got a pound.
He had to fight. He had to fight fights till he was 60 or something like that, just to pay them back.
Yeah, he had to come back.
He owed somehow he owed the U.S. government more than what he made, which was one of the biggest hypocrisies
he had to
of
come
modern
out of
day.
He had to come out of retirement to fight Marciano. And I actually respected Marciano and them because they paid for his. Was it no? I think did Marciano or was it Schmeling that paid for his funeral? He didn't even have money to. Schmeling. He didn't even have money to get buried. And Joe Louis literally, I don't see how. Even right now, when you sit back and think, like, if your entire life span you made, let's say an average person who works, let's just say you made $100 million. Let's just say you made $1 million in your whole lifetime. You earned $1 million. It wouldn't make sense how you would have to pay $2 million in taxes in your lifetime. Yeah. It wouldn't make any sense. But this literally is what happened to Joe Louis. How he literally owed more than he totally earned, and it was sad that the brother went out like that. And again, like Brother Black Panther said, you have to acceptance. Yeah, I ain't going. You ain't
finna do me the same way.
Yeah, but that law I had to recollect. It's called the Mann Act. That was the Mann Act, transporting women across state lines for immoral purposes. That's what they tried. That's what they brought the brother Jack Johnson down.
But you know what though? It's an excellent point looking at the Joe Louis story of how this country treats the people that they supposedly call heroes. Joe Louis went to war and got rank. He was a sergeant in the Army, a leader. He did great things for this country in wars. And he come back to America and nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. And not only has nothing changed, in the end you end up broke. And you know what? Muhammad Ali didn't go to the war, but the same thing happened to him when he left the Olympics. When he left the Olympics, he beat up all the communist countries at that time in boxing, knocked them all out, got a gold medal. And he go downtown in New York and can't get a hot dog.
You can't get couldn't even get a hot cup of hot coffee,
And can't get a hot cup of coffee. So we need to start realizing that we are just entertainment. We just entertainment, and we need to get back to the ABA and the Negro type leagues and produce for self, man, because it's all glitz and glamour at first, but at the end of the day, when you're no good to these people, they will throw you out on your ass. And
this is why I respect Floyd
Mayweather.
Mayweather. That's why I respect Floyd Mayweather, because he won't allow them to do him like that. He won't allow them to do him like that.
Game. Yeah. He saw that the money maker was Oscar De La Hoya, so he said, you know what? I'm going to get out from under this guy, this Bob Arum guy, and I'm going to defeat the money maker. And I'm going to be the money maker. And that's what he did. The best decision he ever made in his life. No longer under Massa. I'm the damn Massa around this motherfucker.
And you know how much he had to buy? You know how much he had to pay to get out of his contract? A small sum compared to what he's worth now. A small sum of
exactly. And that was the best money he ever spent. How much was it?
$750,000 to get out of top rank.
And that's the best money he ever spent in his life.
And he signed that deal with Showtime. Was a smart thing to do. And now he paid and he got out of that deal. Now he can do his own thing. That's what they don't want. And that's why they don't want his TMT.
Black man owning his own.
A black man owning his own. That's the only way to be
like
about
that.
it.
And if
they
you
don't want
Massa
like don't like that. Massa don't like.
Where's your
Massa
white
don't.
woman? That's what they're gonna ask you. They're like, wait a minute, you doing all these? So where's your white woman?
Where your white woman?
You got a black woman too? I mean, you don't. Wait a minute.
Jordan got black children. Jordan, because Jordan got a white woman. Jordan, okay, you got my woman in your house. That's fine, because I know you'll never go against me. That's the difference between Michael Jordan and Floyd Mayweather. That's why they never exposed the jerk or the asshole that we know Michael Jordan really is. You know, they don't slander Michael Jordan.
Mike ain't too friendly.
He ain't never been friendly. And that's why they won't never tear down Michael Jordan the way they do Mayweather. They won't allow that slander. The only people that ever talk bad about Michael Jordan is really us. You know, the black
But you know what,
community.
though? I know people are going to say, well, all athletes are assholes to a degree. And that's true. On court personas, I mean, people wouldn't recognize me if they saw a game that I played. I mean, I'm ruthless. I'm competitive. That's just how it has to be out there. But in your personal life, you don't have to be that way. And it just seems like Michael Jordan is like that everywhere with everybody. He's just an asshole.
Yeah.
And I've heard this before the Chameleonaire thing came out. Before, I mean, I've just heard this over and over from people that were in the NBA that Mike, you know, sometimes he's cool, most times he's not. It's just his personality. He's not a Magic Johnson. You know, he's not a LeBron. He's not a D Wade. You know, he's a him. and he is focused the majority of the time, and it can come off as really cold, man, and even to his own people.
You know what?
I did the research on him. I did the research on the prison investment, and it's not true.
No, there's another guy named Michael Jordan.
That's been debunked.
It just happens. Yeah, people do need. That is something we do need to get away from that about the. There's a former governor of Seattle, not Washington State or something like that. That
it wasn't Michael Jordan that we know. So people need to get out of that.
All you got to do is Google research.
You know that stuff is public knowledge.
Yeah, it's simple Google research. I know it's hurtful.
I found that was interesting though. I found out that some teachers' pensions are linked to private prison investments.
Oh, that's like that here in Florida. That's like that here in Florida. That is a given. That's a fact. In Florida,
that's
yes, it is.
Up.
It is, and in Florida is like that because you know what it is, Black Panther. If you're a state employee, part of your pensions or your whatever you pay, your taxes, however, piece of that goes to prisons. Private prisons are considered state here, at least in Florida. So I don't know about the rest of the United States, but here
it's called state-owned. They're state-owned, privately ran. That's pretty much how it goes. All prisons are still state-owned. A lot of people say private, the private prison sector. No, private. It's only private ran. It's just like if I have a I could own a security company. I own the company, but I bring in Brother Black Panther, Brother Kevin to run it for me. That means you guys hire all the security guards, hire all the employees. You guys handle all the human resources, the hiring, the firing, labor hours, scheduling, but it's still owned by me. So that's basically what they did was, what they did with the prison systems like that is that so all prisons you're not considered a state worker, so you're not entitled to state benefits. That's what it's really all about, because most states want to cut down on labor force. That's why a lot of these wine and spirits, or they're allowing, especially here in the state of Pennsylvania, cities like Philadelphia, they're allowing liquor to be sold in the private sector, in the private markets now. The markets are selling the liquor now. You can go in a market now, buy a six-pack or a case of beer. Because why would they allow someone, a private worker in the state store, they're paying the state benefits, and you're just literally the lowest level of employee. That's all a part of state cutback. So that's pretty much what it's about. State-owned, but still it's privately ran. And also you're liable for all the lawsuits of the state.
That's some bullshit.
You're not suing the state anymore. You're not suing the state, because lawsuits happen in the prison too, but you're suing the private company that's running the prison. That's how it works.
Wow.
This is the Raising Awareness group, and we're discussing racism in sports. If you want to chime in, give us a call at 323-870-4805. Let's take a caller. Caller 8609. You're live. Caller area code 609. You're live.
This is Brother Mku.
Oh, Elder Mku, peace.
Elder, what's good?
Peace, Elder.
Hey, peace, guys.
What's going on?
Hey, Black African Power.
Black African Power.
Hey, man, look, I got to bring my old school knowledge into the game here, guys. You know how that goes.
Bring it. Hey, listen, Elder. If you gotta bring it to them, your Chuck Taylors. I know that's what they was wearing out there on the court back in the day, with the high white socks, with the short shorts. They didn't do the long shorts back then. They did the short shorts. You know what I mean?
Hey, man, I go back to PF Kids, my brother.
There it is.
Not the PF Flyers.
These young boys, they only know Jordan, LeBrons, and Kobe's and all that. They don't know nothing about that. I don't think they'd even play. They wouldn't even play if they had to put that on.
Nah, man, they wouldn't know nothing about that, man. Hey, look, I was doing something by the time I got to college, man, we started to wear Pumas, man. That was the big thing back in the day.
Oh,
man. That was a big time shoe back then, the Pumas, man.
Hey,
and the wigwams, the big wigwams.
Man, these young boys ain't wearing nothing like that.
Hey, look, man. I was just sitting there thinking, you guys brought up a lot of great points, man, and I do remember when I played football for Central State University, and I got hurt my first year, guys, my freshman year. And I remember how it was so difficult for black athletes back then. We're talking about 70, 71, how you couldn't break into the NFL. And you got to remember, it wasn't as wide open as it is in recent memory as it was back then. Actually, owners of these franchises could be very selective as to who they brought into the organizations. They actually literally brought people onto the campus to look at the disposition and the personality of these athletes before they even signed them. So if you had any kind of questionable, behavior patterns or anything of that nature, they didn't bring you in. It didn't matter how talented you were, because they could afford to do that back then. It wasn't important as far as the entertainment value of the product was concerned back then as it is now. So now you have no choice but to bring in the best athlete so you can bring the best product on the court, on the floor, on the field. I remember how guys were running. Now, again, I'm bringing back the old school scenario to you guys. Now you guys talk about 100-meter times. Back then we talked about 100-yard times. And if you ran 9 3s, 9 4s, that's the equivalent of a 10-2, 10-3, 100-meter dash. We had guys in NAIA Division II football, 6'4", 250, running 9'3", 100-yard speeds. And I remember being a defensive end and coming out of high school, coming out of West Catholic in Philadelphia. I wasn't used to tackling a guy this as big as I was, and having a guy coming around the end, 6'4", 250, running a 9'400", full speed. I had to tackle a dude like that. It was a whole other experience for me. But I remember guys that we played against. You may or may not know these guys. Melvin Lunsford, who actually played with me at Central State. The only reason why he went to the pros, and back then the New England Patriots was Lily White, a Lily White organization. No black people played for the New England Patriots back then, but he did. They actually came to the campus and interviewed him to see if he was worthy of playing on an NFL roster. Joe Gilliam was a black quarterback, one of the first black quarterbacks in the league, who actually came, if you guys may remember, came to the Pittsburgh Steelers and actually took Terry Bradshaw's job for half of a season back in 73, I think it was, 74.
Then they played.
Yeah, when they went to the Super Bowl, they benched him, right? That's the same dude, right?
Right, and then they benched him. He never got back on the field again.
Never saw the field again.
But there's only certain teams that will allow a player of what they call questionable personality or questionable, intangibles on to the field, and those are the teams that were successful: Pittsburgh Steelers, Oakland Raiders. If you guys remember those teams. Same thing with the ABA and NBA. Certain teams, certain owners would allow the talent to be able to come into. It didn't matter what the personality was. They brought those guys in, and that's the reason why they won. Benjamin Black Panther brought a very good point. When the ABA was in action, they just took those talent out of the ABA, brought them into the NBA, and basically put those guys out of business. Same thing with the AFL. That was my time. That was when guys, you had no place else to go. You had to go to those minor leagues to play. You very rarely could just go into the NFL based on talent alone. So, I was able to see both sides of the spectrum at that time. Now, even though I got hurt, I was able to experience that. And the young people, and I'm not sure who made the point, made a very good point. These athletes today do not know the power that they have because they are actually being revered and worshipped now. If they knew the power that they had on all kinds of levels, sociological, economically, everything, there could be some things that could change, but I just don't know how that can happen unless we have some kind of metamorphosis or some kind of paradigm shift. But no, I mean all these things you guys brought up tonight, was just so eye-opening and just brought into focus a lot of the things that were generated out of the era that I came out of. I can just see how the progression occurred, and the sacrifice and all the experiences that a lot of the guys from my time had to suffer in order for the guys to experience the freedoms that you don't want to call them freedoms, but the opportunities that they have now is just so it's just so obvious. But you have to have somebody from an older era to kind of bring things into focus, so you guys understand where we came from and where we're going, and the reason why we're at where we're at right now. But yeah, man, very good, very good discussion. And I've been enjoying it, very.
Let me ask you a question, Elder. Let me ask you a question. When you look at the athlete of today, in baseball and basketball, mainly baseball and basketball, the black athlete, was their celebrity as big as it is now then? Because now, take for instance, in the 70s, I guess, when we're talking, especially when we're talking 70s, we're talking about football, we would probably think some of the Oakland Raiders, the Pittsburgh Steelers, they were pretty much like the dominant, even the Miami Dolphins. These are probably the most dominant teams in the NFL. And when we're talking basketball in the 70s, especially early 70s, I would guess we're talking maybe, Houston Rockets, LA Lakers, Knicks. These were probably dominant teams. Was the black athlete, was he still the figure like he is, like the LeBron James, the Cam Newton, the I would say maybe the Marshawn Lynch's, the Steph Curry? Was he the idol of the average black youth like he is today? The idolization, like I said earlier, that was me who said that Africana about. I don't really think the black athlete realizes how powerful he is. The influence that he has as far as psychologically and economically. When we look at the athlete of the 70s, like the 70s boxer, the Muhammad Ali, the Joe Frazier, the Sugar Ray Leonards and Marvin Haglers, compared to the modern day of a Deontay Wilder, Floyd Mayweather, Andre Ward, even superstar athletes. Were they revered the way they are now, or was the black father or the black family, was that still the head? Like, was the average kid still, I want to be like my dad? Whereas though, that's more like modern day, you have kids who they just so worship the athlete of today. What was the mindset of like the average young black youth then towards the athlete, the superstar, in your opinion?
Well, it's the dynamic changes from the certain sports, and I have to say it like that because there's still, again, it was still a prejudicial way of conducting business back then, especially the professional sports teams, the ownership of the sports teams, the management of the sports teams, because they were run by Europeans. You didn't have black people in the front office and in those positions of authority back then. So they dictated what got exposed into the media. The superstars was basically the white quarterback. The picture, the pitcher on the baseball team. More than likely, the first baseman, the third baseman were all typically white guys. Those were your home run hitters. You didn't get that stuff until later. I would think that when you have sports like tennis, boxing, those sports that you had no choice but to recognize the talent of the individual. When the person was on the field, in the ring, in a what you call an individual sport, they couldn't misogynize that particular achievement. However, in a team type of sport, they could absorb that black person into the team structure and say, well, it really wasn't the black guy. If it wasn't for the team, this guy wouldn't have been as successful as he was. The great quarterback made him successful. The great coach, the Lombardis and all those other guys made him a great player. So the great football players, the great basketball players, they didn't get the exposure as far as the media was concerned as they do now. But the individual sports, if you go back to Arthur Ashe, Muhammad Ali, all those kind of, you cannot deny their greatness because they were on an individual, they were in an individual basis, achieving those things on their own without a team structure around them. So it was a different dynamic depending on where you was looking at, what sport you were looking at. But yes, we were revered back then. We know who our heroes were, even in the football, the basketball, the baseball arenas. We knew who they were. We just didn't have the exposure like they do to LeBron James now with these mega deals, these commercial endorsements and things of that nature. Just didn't have all that. But yeah, we knew who our heroes were. And but it wasn't as as elevated as it is now due to media exposure. But no, that was a very good question, and yeah, we didn't know who they were.
Okay. Black Panther, you there? You trying to say something?
Yeah, I'm here, man.
Was you trying to say something?
Oh, the only thing I was thinking about is at one time the ABA was so popular, so much better than the NBA,
that the ABA had white players that went on to be Hall of Famers. I mean, Billy Cunningham, Huey Brown, Larry Brown, Rick Barry, those white guys. And they all in the Hall of Fame. But they started in the ABA. Dan Issel, all those guys started in the ABA, man. So we can have a league that's prosperous, man. We've done it before. We just got to get enough athletes to see what's going on and make their own league. Unfortunately, it's always the players that are labeled in a certain dynamic of negativity that wake up to the fact that the NBA be on some bullshit or the NFL be on some bullshit, and that's the guys that don't have the $100 million contract, so they can't really make no moves like the guys that we need. But if we got enough players together, we can make it happen. It's not unobtainable. We can make it.
Yeah, them guys, certain guys is going, they're the lower level, they're not the top tier guys, they're mid-level players.
Right.
And, it does boil down to money. It's going to boil down to $1. And them guys, they're all NFL, NBA players who live it week to week, check to check. A lot of people may not believe it, but they are. There are guys in the NFL that live week to week, check to check, and they can go borderline broke, man. Those are the guys, and that actually is the majority of the league. Those are the guys who you don't know about. They don't have the Adrian Peterson contract and stuff like that, so they're going to be the ones that's going to be like, hey, man, I can't make that move, and I respect that. And I understand where they're coming from. But, like Elder said, we're talking about it. The athlete still, I just don't think he knows how powerful he is and the influence he could do. Because like you said earlier, Brother Black Panther, if them brothers the other year ago would have just said, look, we forfeiting the game. We're not playing in these playoff games. We forfeited it. That's it. That would have sent a shockwave, not just to the NBA, but to the NFL, Major League Baseball, the owners, and government to say, wait a minute, these Negroes are unifying again and organizing, and we gotta satisfy them. We got to straighten this out because we got to do something because what they want an owner, okay, we got to get an owner. They got to let them have an owner because. And this was something else that I want to bring up real quickly about the ownership. I want black people to stop thinking that Negroes is owning them teams in the NBA like Usher and Will Smith and Jay-Z and all that bullshit. Get that foolishness out your mind, black people. They didn't own what they did own was 0.1% of a percent. And what I mean by that, think about your calculator. When you divide something in your calculator and it says 0, then it's dot, some number behind it, that's literally what they own. But it was like 0 point, a bunch of zeros, and then a 1. Okay, so what they basically did was every time one of these black guys, I'm going to give case example Will Smith. They was running around trying to make it seem like Will Smith owned the Sixers. When that Russian came in here and bought the Sixers, next thing you know, he bought up all these little properties in West Philly. All he did was basically just use Will Smith to pit people, try to get people in the stands, and so he could just use eminent domain and basically just regentrification to get properties and start making apartments here in Philly. They did it in Atlanta. They did it in Atlanta the same way with Usher. And they did it in Brooklyn with the Nets, with Jay-Z when they opened the Barclays Center. And basically said, I don't need you no more. So I want black people to get that through their mind when they be getting played. They just put the figurehead in front of you and have them dancing and buck dancing, performing and shucking and jiving and singing at halftime. You don't own anything. He doesn't own any shares. He doesn't make any decisions or anything that pertains to that team. Bob Johnson was the last owner we had.
I was gonna say that to chime in on that. That was bad. I was gonna say about Bob Johnson. To chime in on that though, Bob Johnson was basically like a permanent. He was basically like a product of affirmative action because actually the team, Larry Bird and the other guy, they had the most money out of the three. But since it was since Bob Johnson was was a cousin and was in it, he ended up getting the team because they didn't want to pick up more because that's when the talk was going around talking about we really didn't have no black owners.
Wow, see, I didn't
But
know that.
Larry Bird's team, the team Larry Bird had set up, came in with the most money to buy the Charlotte franchise. But they went ahead and gave it to Bob Johnson, to quiet the people down. It was like a pacifier.
Yeah, I didn't know
That's
that.
all it was.
Wow, see, I didn't even know that. I had no clue about that.
A lot of people don't know that.
Does Jordan?
Actually, I think the third group that was in it had more money than Bob Johnson and Michael Jordan did.
Does Jordan still have something to do about that, or that's done deal?
No, that's he changed it back. Yeah, he's majority owner of them, and now they're back to
He's
owner.
majority owner.
He's majority owner. So he's
the people that Bob Johnson brought in, he got rid of them.
Jordan's the only majority black owner.
Jordan got the ownership with the Wizards, though.
Oh yeah, they muscled him.
Remember that?
They just told him goodbye. You know what?
They tricked him into playing and told him get out.
Since we got Michael Jordan, and the subject of Michael Jordan, we want to talk about racism. One of the most racist power moves that ever happened in basketball, really in sports, happened with Michael Jordan. When Michael Jordan wanted to buy into the Chicago Bulls, Jerry Krause literally told him, "Nigga, you only good enough to play for me, not work with me." That's literally what he told him.
Really?
He literally told Michael Jordan that.
Now.
Oh no, he ain't saying that now.
He probably called it, Mike.
But that was literally what he told Michael Jordan. You could work for me, but you can't work with me. That's literally what he told Michael Jordan. And that's what made Michael Jordan go to the Wizards. And then it happened to him again with the Wizards when they basically gave him ownership and they were just waiting for him to come out of retirement. He played his 2 years for him, built the team up to respectability and getting people in the stands and sold jerseys. And then they just turned around and told him goodbye too.
He didn't give up, though. He said he was going to own the damn team.
Yeah.
And to be honest, to jump sports a little bit, that's how the Panthers looked at Cam Newton. They actually brought him in just to sell tickets because at the time he was the hottest thing out there. They didn't think he was gonna be that good. Because when they brought him in the next year, they was looking at Russell Wilson, but he ended up going to the Seahawks. But he ended up proving them wrong and playing for his contract. But Cam was actually brought in just to fill seats and sell tickets.
And now they're making a big deal of a Cam Newton dance. Now he's dancing too much. He's giving too many balls to the team. He's not married. He's having children. Man, give it a rest. Give it a rest, man.
What was it? A white woman wrote a letter. She wrote a letter to him saying how professional was dancing.
Yeah, the Tennessee fan.
White people are out of control, man.
With their letters.
Offended you?
With their letters.
She wrote a fucking letter. Something about you're unprofessional. You're scared. I don't know, man. You're unprofessional.
I never. But you know what it is? He a black quarterback getting it done, leading his team to one loss. They in the playoffs. They are favorite to make it to the Super Bowl, and he's doing it in a way that quarterbacks are really generally not supposed to do it. The guy runs, he throws, he dances, he gives the ball to the crowd. He does it all, man, and he's worked hard to do what he is. So
what's his stats? He got over 3,000 passing yards, over 600 rushing yards, over 35 passing touchdowns, and over 10 rushing touchdowns.
But overall, it's about his character. And they don't want to talk about the Cam Newton in his community and how the Cam Newton is signing autographs and visiting the sick and feeding the hungry and giving way toward the image, that he has a clean-cut image, because he's not the Johnny Manziel of the NFL. See, when you got Johnny Manziel acting like he's talking on a cell phone with a brick of money and acting a fool at strip clubs and stuff like that, and arriving the game day drunk. You understand what I'm saying? They want him. They mad because he's not Johnny Manziel. He's Cam Newton. He's actually the hero. Remember we talked about it. The athlete is the hero, and Cam Newton is little white boy's hero. And they don't feel comfortable with that. White supremacy don't want to feel comfortable with their little boys looking up to a clean-cut, well-dressed, good-talking hero. You know, now he's persona. He's even eclipsing the football player. You know, okay, he does the dab or whatever little dance. That's really a problem. That's really a problem. He gives the football to the kids in the stands. He ain't dumping the football. He's giving them. He finds a kid and he gives it to the kid. But see, and he's gravitating to them, and their kids are trying to, because now their kids are saying, I want to be like Cam Newton when I get older. That's what they're saying. But
yeah,
this
they don't
good
like
show.
that.
Yeah, they don't like that. They don't. But it's a good show, and you know, we're gonna have to start to wrap up. But I'm glad my brothers came out. Glad Elder came out, showed us some love. Black Panther, I'm glad to show you love. Hey, shout out what you got coming up. I know you got some things coming up. Shout it out.
Oh man, we got coming up. You know, we got a few things coming up. January 16th, we got the RBG Gas Chamber, which is a concert of music from all Black Power artists. We got it going on at Charlotte, North Carolina, at the Uhuru Sasa Academy, which is on 5500 Highland Street in Charlotte, North Carolina. Come on out. It's going to be a great thing, man. We got a lot of talented people in the RBG community that rap, sing, I mean, you name it. They're going to be putting their albums and their music on display for the people. You know, it's going to be a real good. It's going to be a real good night. On the 31st, we got the Bembe, which is Yoruba word for party, and it's of the Ifa tradition. And that's going to be at the same place, 5500 Highland Street in Charlotte, North Carolina. And then, you know, Rock Squad, February 6th, Philadelphia, Black and Nobel Bookstore. You know, the whole squad is going to be in the building. It's going to be the first time that's ever happened. Everybody's giving a presentation. It's going to be a pseudo-slam weekend. We putting all these on the fest. I mean, we're putting them all on the rest. I'm going to be giving a presentation on traditional African festivals, or you can call them holidays, and I'm going to be talking about that. February 7th, the very next day, in Brooklyn, New York, King Simon, Rock Squad, we linking up. So we're going to be doing it there as well. So, you know, come on out, support us. You can hit me on Facebook. It's Benjamin. Last name is Njie. Y'all can hit me up for more information on those events. Rock Squad up. Warriors up. Magi Archers. Arrows up. Bows up. Y'all know how we do.
Awesome, brother. Elder, you still there, Elder?
Yes, I am.
Elder, do you still the information on Elder Empress Weston's funeral? We will be attending. Do you just have the information, so we can just put it out there real quick?
Yeah. We'll be at Black and Noble on February the 6th, attending the festivities there with Ramen Rock Squad. We're also going down next weekend to attend the homegoing ceremonies for Dr. Francis Cress Welsing down in D.C. Hopefully we'll see some of our brothers and sisters down there.
Man. When is that, Elder?
That would be, the 23rd?
Mm-hmm.
Saturday, and I know it starts at 3 o'clock, so we'll be down there early enough to get ourselves situated in a great position. We'll, be in attendance with Straight Black Pride movements from D.C. and from the New York chapters. Hopefully we'll get a chance to build with other brothers and sisters as well. But yeah, definitely celebrating the life and legacy of our Queen Mother, Dr. Francis Cress Welsing. Hopefully we'll see everybody down that way.
All right. Awesome. Thank you, Elder. And again, we're the Raising Awareness group. We're working with our SMB family, Straight Black Pride Movement, the Almond Rock Squad. You can check us out on our website, RaisingAwarenessGroup.com. We have our YouTube at Raising Awareness Group. Definitely check out our supplement. It's getting ready to be completed. And we're all about homeschooling and educating our people and raising our awareness. Definitely appreciate my brothers Kevin and Akil, my sidekicks, and everybody in the Raising Awareness group. So appreciate your support, and coming at you every Wednesday, 8 o'clock. We're definitely going to we're wrapping up, but we want to leave you all with some words from probably one of the greatest football minds and coaches of our era, and that's he's resting in power with our ancestors right now, and that's Eddie Robinson. And just want you guys to listen to his words. Thanks for tuning in, and check us out next week every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Peace, everybody.
Peace.
All out. Let's go. All out.
During the football season, the Holland Hall Athletic Dormitory at Grambling State University rings with this sound. 6:30 every morning, Monday through Friday, sometimes Saturday, and sometimes Sunday. Coach Eddie Robinson rousing his Tigers to chase opportunity through the classroom, onto the playing field, and into life. That's the package this 66-year-old monument to dedication offers, in fact, demands.
I want to teach this young man who's playing for us and any other youth, you got to put something in it. You got to get into the system and understand what it's all about and work at it.
There is no distance between the head man and his players. He's right there. And as Tiger quarterback Terrell Landry confirms, you better listen.
His whole idea is for the athlete to be a winner off the field and on the field. That's the key of his whole system. And it takes a while if you're not really being observant to him to understand that.
The president of the university played under Eddie Robinson, one of so many during the coach's 43 seasons there, Dr. Joseph Johnson, and he too took something with him.
Yeah, I never thought during those days that I would become the president of Grambling State University, but he always told us, first of all, go to your classes, get your degree, and so you can do anything and go anywhere you want to. So when I went to the University of Colorado, when I went to Berkeley, when I went to Harvard, I didn't have any problems because I had a sound psychological philosophy that I had gotten from that man and from this school that enabled me to survive out there. And I think that's what we do best here at Grambling.
Quarterback Doug Williams, one of Grambling's celebrated players, a Heisman Trophy candidate as a collegian, went to the NFL, now the USFL, and offers this reflection on his coach.
My senior year, when I was in the Heisman Trophy race, every day he came to me and said, hey, man, you got to believe. I mean, this is America. And he said, it could happen. I had doubts. A lot of people had doubts, but I don't think Coach Eddie Robinson had any doubts at all.
Eddie Robinson doesn't have any magic formula. He's a worker, stimulated by a deep-rooted belief.
I believe about the youth like I think about football. Their football team has to be taught blocking and tackling. And every generation has got to be taught Americanism. If you don't teach them, they're not going to get it through osmosis. I want to be an American football coach. Whatever contributions that Warner, Stagg, or Coach Bryant made, I want mine to stand out equal to those. I just want to stand for whatever is good in our society. And now, whatever that is, that's what Eddie Robinson wants to be.